So giving this answer is going to be subjective at all. So my answer, while talk about this language, that grammar is important or not, then my answer would be no and yes as well. So here I would be discussing no part in the first part and yes in later on the video, and at last I would be telling you about the 3 tips what you can follow while thinking that grammar is important in speaking English. Okay, and at last and the very end of the conversation I would be giving you the brief that how I learned this language so far, and giving you the each and everything clear to you. So let's start with no. Why I say that grammar is not important while speaking English. It means, why I'm saying that, because while you are only being thinking about grammar, there you are paralyzing your mind. You must have thought like, once I would be being perfect on grammar, then I would be starting to speak up. So that's where your growth is going to be stagnated. Your growth towards this language is going to be fixed. You cannot grow because you are only paralyzed and only thinking about grammatical portion. So that's where, once you are a beginner and started learning this language, don't be obsessed with the grammar. Give yourself a space to be wrong. Give yourself a space to be make mistakes, because that's where we learn to communicate. This is a process, long way we have to go. So while we only think about grammar, that's where we end up the scope of making mistake. We only being thinking, once I'll be perfect at making sentences, tenses, grammatically each and everything would be correct, then I would be speaking only. But no, once you are a beginner, just go with it. Doesn't thinking that much about grammatical error. Do practice at daily basis. Start with whatever vocabulary, whatever things you have in your mind. Try to spoke up. It is something like you wanted to swim and you do not wanted to get into water. So does it make sense? No. If you wanted to swim, then you have to be going to the water. Then the process comes like at which method you are putting your hands into the water, then it comes. But once you are a beginner, just be there, practice daily. Doesn't matter you are grammatically correct or not, give a lot of mistakes and be fail and also learn from those mistakes. So that's where I put that in beginning grammar is not important. So now you'd be thinking, no, Anshuman, you gave the answer into perspective. Earlier you talked, no, grammar is not important, but in contradictory you said that yes, grammar is important. So like, isn't looking so glossy, like this is looking very contradictory. Let me explain it for you. While I say grammar is not important and parallelly I say grammar is important, then it means I'm not being objective. I'm not saying that either this way you can achieve something and neither you can. I'm just being relatable both of the conditions. First, I'm saying, okay, grammar is not that much important for the beginner, and once you have that certain experience in speaking, then a little bit grammar plays a role. Okay, so that's where the grammar coming to play into your mind. You must be thinking about the grammatical part as well. Once you get confident to speak, doesn't matter, and giving you to the space to speak clearly. Okay, because now you are being good at making conversation, you do not feel to make mistakes and you are being okay with that. Now it's time to make it in a structured way, because each and every language follow a set of rules that is called a grammar. Either you go for Hindi, English, Spanish, Japanese, whatever language you are learning, there is certain criteria, set of rules. By the basis of that language is being judged, that grammatically you are being correct or not. And this is also a method to judge yourself, your language, that whatever you're speaking, is that universally accepted or not, is that universally and grammatically correct or not. So once you being confident in that part, okay, I'm being there, I do not have hesitation to speak to the people, not thinking that much of grammar in beginning, then a little bit trying to have a sort of grammar in your speaking part. So grammar is not being concerned with your starting journey. It must be a byproduct of your speaking. This is very important thing to learn. Why I say that grammar should be the byproduct of your speaking. You do not have to much curious and conscious about your grammar at the initial, because that's where your mind and your growth is going to be paralyzed. You would be only thinking, you would be only, once I would be perfect then I would be going there. No, don't do at all. Otherwise you're never gonna to make it for you. Just start with whatever you have, then eventually after some time with going with the process, you would be naturally getting that sense that are you speaking this correct or not. Okay, so I hope I make some sense here. Now talking about the 3 tips I wanted to share with you. Once you are that position, you are being well, you are going well, and the coming, the words coming naturally from your inside. So now think about your grammatical portion, and 3 things I'm going to tell you to start with. Go with this tenses, basic tense, sentence structures, and third, prepositions. Just 3 things that is very basic to go with, because here onwards you are being thinking about your structure, your grammatical portion while you speak. Don't go for vocabulary in beginning. Don't think that much about passive and using advanced vocabulary words and all, at all. Just do with the words, basic words what you have inside you. Okay, so in summary, I just wanted to tell you, firstly, go with whatever words, whatever things you having in mind without thinking that much about grammatical portion. Second step is that once you have been confident to talk without thinking and giving you space to be wrong at some times and genuinely accepted those things, then think about grammar portion. Try to a little bit include grammatical thing in your conversation and trying to analyze yourself at the way that whether you are making a mistake or not. This is a very right approach to learn this language at all. Now coming to the interesting part, that how do I learn this language? Even though I know that I make like significant mistake in conversation, I'm also not being into the path of perfection. I never wanted to be there at all. And because this is something while we think about meritocracy, while we just wanted to be perfect, that's where our growth had been stagnated. So how do I learn this language? Is quite similar to this rules, to this system and processes what I'm talking about. I was beginner. At that time I started practicing as much I can, like at daily basis. I know that I started making mistakes in front of people who are being with me. I trying to speak something in front of them without being feared, okay, that people would be judging. That's all right. This is like the way to learn anything. Don't think that much. Don't think what people would be thinking. Don't think what surrounding would be thinking. Only being obsessed with your learning. That's where your like real journey of English or any other things what you're going to learn is starts at a real time. Okay, so I do not take any grammar classes at all. I do not took any premier thing to learn this language. What I did, only practice, because this is something like swimming. I told you, because I wanted to speak up fluently. So for that only I have to start speaking. There is no remedy, there is no shortcuts, there is no like getting that thing in a day. You have to go with the process. Along with that you'll be getting confident, and the same things I did along, like it's already been I guess more than 1 year. I tried to speak up at a regular basis while being into a group of people, while being alone, and like with the social media platforms, channels I do consume thing. I try to speak up with me as well while I do not have anyone to talk. I use online application to talk with people to get their insights as all. So it's all about speaking. I do not had been much concerned about my grammatical portion that time. But once I get, okay, now I am able to express my thing. Now I have to little bit inculcate that grammatical portion in the conversation. So that's where that thing always being into mind, that okay, I started doing the practices done with then, because I was coming from that background where I was supposed to know all those grammatical things. So I did those things, I covered all those grammatical things, and always trying to ensure that while I would be grammatical incorrect, so next conversation, I would be improving that mistake at all. And third, this time I'm being on to that stage where I am being focused, more focused on that. I know this is a way I can express my ideas, my emotions to the people, but now I'm more focused on that efficiently, how, what I can do more, how I can say this thing more efficiently so that other people whom I'm talking to get it more 100%. So it's more about storytelling, it's more about crafting the sentence around others interest, and like following a set of structure. I had already made a video about like being good at impromptu conversation and at all. So that way now I'm more focused on the advanced thing, that how I can make a cherry on a cake, because I'm already on that position to talk with anyone confidently. So that's all for this video. I hope you get some values out there. If yes, then make sure to hit subscribe button and follow me for this kind of content. I would be seeing you there at Friday 9 DT.